Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 7th Jan. The news items which we have picked up from the Hindu are these 14. We look at them in detail. The first one is GDP growth expected to be slower at 7.1% this year. So this is the information coming from the Central Statistical Organization. The chief statistician TCA Anand, he says that India's GDP is expected to grow at a slower pace compared to last year. So in 2015-16 GDP growth rate was 7.6%. This financial year it is expected to be 7.1%. So the final data would come after the financial year ends. So this is still data till October. So this projection which is saying that the growth rate would be slower is without including the demonetization factor. That is not taken into consideration. So that's what it says. The GVA, so gross value added growth, is also estimated to be at 7.7% as compared to 7.2% last financial year. So this is the information coming forth. Even it says that agricultural sector has seen a significant growth in terms of GVA. Service sector is also expected to grow compared to last year, but manufacturing sector has seen a slowdown. So there is an expectation of slowdown here. Now what is this GDP and GVA? We look into it once again. We have done this in December. So again we look into it. It is a revision as well. So this is the information compiled up here, that how CSO projection is not factoring in demonetization, GDP growth, the 2 financial years, and what is real GDP and nominal GDP. We'll look into that aspect as well. So this is the information shown, how agricultural growth has increased. Consumption expenditure, if you see, that has also increased. Then this is per capita net national income, which has seen a rise. And this is gross value addition, which is also slowing down compared to last year. Now looking at what is GDP, GVA, the other term GNP. So first understanding what is GDP and GNP. GDP stands for gross domestic product. So everything produced domestically, all goods and services produced domestically within, generally it's one financial year, is called gross domestic product. So that is the market value of all goods and services. So that is GDP. So GDP is concerned with only new and current production. It excludes output produced abroad by Indians or Indian owned factors of production. So factors of production, you know about land, capital, labor. So all that is excluded. Intermediate goods are also excluded because it is final goods. So goods that are produced and moved ahead further for processing from one firm to other, they are excluded. So this is about GDP. Then what is GNP? So this is gross national product, the total income earned by nation's factors of production, regardless of where they are located, means whether they are located domestically or abroad, wherever. So the national product means produced by nation's factors of production. So GDP and GNP have a relation. So that is GNP is GDP plus factor payments from abroad minus factor payments to abroad. So when we are calculating GDP, even factors of production means industries established or people working within the territory of India domestically, and those are foreign nationals, they are also included. So those calculations, those are included in the calculations. So GDP means, but that payment, that profit which they earn goes abroad. So in GNP that is excluded. So factors payment from abroad coming to India are added, and factor payments which are going abroad are subtracted. So that is GNP coming from GDP calculation. So examples of factor payments, wages, labor earns, profits which institutions or companies earn, rent which is paid, interest paid, dividends paid on assets, all these are factors of production. Then other term, GVA, gross value addition. So what is gross value addition? Total value of goods and services produced through economic activity in a particular period. So through economic activity here is important. So in a particular time frame, same, it is generally one financial year. So the through economic activity here means that GDP calculation is the market value of goods and services. So in that market value, there are taxes also added, because when you see MRP, it is inclusive of taxes. So then the taxes are actually not through economic activity. So taxes are going to the government, no economic activity involved in that. So that is why taxes have to be excluded, and subsidies which are government paying for assisting production, for instilling production to increase. So all that has to be added, because subsidies which we are getting from the government means in the price, that value is not added, because that is not the company adding up to that, the government is giving that subsidy, but that is actually involving an economic activity. So subsidy value is added and taxation value is subtracted. So that gives you GVA, gross value addition, right? So this is the relation here. You can see that taxes and subsidies are not part of the value addition in product. So that is why GVA excludes that. Next, we look at the difference between nominal and real. So nominal and real difference is there for all: GDP, GNP, GVA. So the term nominal means at current prices. So at current prices means what is the effect of inflation compared to previous time is not included. That is not considered. So it is value at current prices. That is called nominal. And real means at constant prices, where a base year or fixed year is taken into consideration. So compared to that fixed year. So then if there is inflation over a period of time from that base year, that is also part of calculation. So that is why that is reflected in that value. So that is why real, GDP, GVA, GNP, whatever it may be, real means at constant prices, inflation taken into consideration. Nominal means at current prices, inflation is not factored in. So this is nominal and real. Then GDP growth in India over the years is shown, GDP and GVA growth. So you can see present data is projecting for 2016-17, but final value will come. We will know exactly what is the growth, GVA, GDP, after the financial year ends. So this is shown, and plus this is the GVA growth rate over quarters. So that is also shown. Then this is the GDP and GVA growth rates compared both together. Next, we look at Supreme Court stays transfer and sale of 2G spectrum by Maxis. So Maxis is a Malaysia-based telecom company, and it has brought 2G spectrum from Aircel. So 2G spectrum was originally allocated to Aircel, and Aircel sold it. Means that is transfer and sale of this 2G spectrum from Aircel to Maxis. And here a multi-crore corruption scam is involved. So there are charges against Maxis, and the CBI court, special CBI court in Delhi, is looking into the matter. The case is under trial, and the summons which are issued to these, the bosses here at Maxis Group 2, they have not come forth. They are not coming to the court in attendance. So right now this case has been looked into by Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has asked the government to make sure, Supreme Court has also issued a summon, and it has asked the government to make sure that the Maxis Group leaders here, the heads, come to know about it and come in attendance. Some action is taken from their side too. So it is asking even the government to give advertisements in Malaysian newspapers so that they can be made aware of this. So this is the case presently. So Supreme Court order follows non-compliance of CBI court summons. So these are the people against whom charge sheets have been filed by CBI in Aircel Maxis deal. Then the Maran brothers, Dayanidhi Maran and his brother, they have been accused of putting pressure on Chennai-based telecom promoter C. Sivashankaran, who got the 2G licenses. This is Aircel 2G licenses which were provided to them in 2006, and they were forced to sell this stake to Maxis. So this is the case here. So these are the prime accused, and the case is now being looked into by Supreme Court. The next news item is Supreme Court refuses urgent hearing on budget. So we have been seeing Model Code of Conduct has been in place because there are elections scheduled, assembly elections scheduled in 5 states. So since Model Code of Conduct is in place, budget and new schemes cannot be announced. So now the budget has been preponed to first week of Feb from last week of Feb. So this is going to clash with the assembly polls. So the central government is being asked. Actually, the election commission is being asked by the political parties in opposition that the central government should be asked to stall the budget presently because Model Code of Conduct is in effect. So Supreme Court has also been petitioned for this, but the Supreme Court refused to have an urgent hearing on this. So when the petition comes in order, it will look into the matter. Supreme Court said no urgency is there in this matter. So Employee Provident Fund Scheme, EPF scheme, has various benefits under it. One of them is Employees Pension Scheme of 1995. So all EPF subscribers are directly under the Employee Pension Scheme too. So presently Labour Ministry has come up with a notification saying that those who have not linked the Aadhaar number with this scheme, then no subsidy would be provided to these accounts, no transfer would be made. So this means that Aadhaar has now become mandatory for the pension scheme. So this pension scheme has contribution coming from the government as well as the employer. So government provides 1.16% of the employee's salary and the employer provides 8.33% of the salary. So the contribution from both goes into this pension scheme. So if Aadhaar number is connected, only then this subsidy would be provided by the government. So that is the notification. The next news item is Patidar stir has run out of steam. So Patidar is also called Patels. Another term, Patidar is the original term, native term which is used. So they are agitating in Gujarat for quota. The leader, the youth 23-year-old agitator who is Hardik Patel, he had been sent to 6 months exile from Gujarat. So they are a Gujarati caste and they have been demanding quota. They are not a backward community, but they are demanding that they be put under OBC category. Then Chief Minister of Gujarat, Anandiben, had refused this to them. She even resigned later, and now the new Gujarat Chief Minister, Vijay Rupani, he claims that this Patidar stir has run out of steam. The community leaders are being, spoken to, because the Deputy Chief Minister of Gujarat himself is also Patidar, Nitin Patel. So there are negotiations going on this matter. This is in news basically right now because a 6-month exile on Hardik Patel has ended now, and he is saying that he would come to the state and again have a massive show of strength because the demand has still not been fulfilled. So this is what the then Gujarat Chief Minister Anandiben Patel also had to say. She is also a Patel. So she said, I simply told the Patidar leaders that granting OBC status was just not possible. If you want it, please go to the Backward Classes Commission with your case. There is a state commission and a central Backward Classes Commission who will decide on this, so you approach them. Of course, the state government is the one which will look into putting classes, categories or castes under this category. So, anyway, it's not constitutionally possible because they should be backward to be put into this category, because we are presently seeing that many forward communities are also demanding reservation because of the discrimination which they face, because general quota reduces because of indiscriminate providing reservation to various communities. We have seen this throughout. So even Marathas, who are also considered to be a forward caste in Maharashtra, they are demanding reservation. So that is the case with Patidars as well. The next news is Supreme Court stays order allowing seizure of roosters. So roosters, cockfight which you see, this is very much prevalent during Pongal and Sankranti festival which happens in Jan in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. So here these cockfights, these roosters are bred and are trained in this, and then cockfights take place. That's why we have seen the Jallikattu in Tamil Nadu that has been banned by Supreme Court. So another case now has been put forth before the High Court presently. The Andhra Pradesh High Court is looking into this case. So it is called to be a 6,000-year-old sport, cockfight. But then it has been put before the High Court, and the High Court passed an order saying that the police authorities, the district administrative officers, can seize these roosters, enter into premises of the villagers, locals, and seize these roosters. So this has resulted in a fear instilled amongst the people, and they have petitioned before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has stayed this Andhra Pradesh High Court order. So presently that is the status, that they cannot just barge into premises and seize roosters. So let's see what happens further in this case too. It will of course come in news again, whether the festival is this cockfight is part of the festival, and how does it take place, and what will be the court's viewpoint on this too, and what decision do they take. The next news item is Knives lighters to be allowed in metro trains. So this is CISF, Central Industrial Security Force. So it looks into security in the metro stations, metro trains. So they have permitted women to carry small knives. Small knives are not more than 4 inches long. So these small knives and even lighters, matchboxes, have been allowed to be carried by travelers, passengers in metro trains, because it is seen that very small knives are required at least by women for their own protection. And also lighter matchboxes have been demanded. Many seizures of these also takes place on a daily basis, and the workers say that it is required by them, and they face hassles while traveling through metro trains. So this is the decision which has come forth now. The next news item is biofortification key to tackling malnutrition. So this is the viewpoint given by M.S. Swaminathan, who is called the father of Green Revolution in India. So this was at the Indian Science Congress, the 104th Indian Science Congress in Tirupati in Andhra Pradesh, where he said that biofortification is the way out. Nutritional quality improvement of the food will help in tackling malnutrition. So malnutrition was initially calorie-based malnutrition, that calorie intake should increase. So that was the first fight. Second fight was against protein malnutrition. So Kwashiorkor and Marasmus, the disease, underweight children which we see. So that protein-based malnutrition was highlighted and efforts taken in that direction. And now he says the third fight which is required is micronutrient-based malnutrition, which has to be tackled. So that can be done through biofortification. So there are few things which are mentioned here, like he's talking of nutrition gardens, botanical gardens in which plants rich in vitamins, iron and iodine are produced. So we see biofortification is the same, enhancing the nutritional value of a commodity like salt fortified with iodine, so iodine fortified salt. So all such cases we see. Even sweet potato variety which has presently been developed with orange colored flesh. So this sweet potato is rich in beta carotene. So it can play a significant role in combating child malnutrition. So such initiatives which have been taken are required and need to be encouraged further. So he's saying there's a need for genetic checkmating so that new disease threats which occur can be tackled. Even in TB, it is seen generally that the major requirement is that the nutrition deficiency has to be resolved. So that is food, he says, is a curative medicine. So that is why food malnutrition fight has to be tackled on a front foot. Even one more last thing which is added here is regarding the slogan given by Lal Bahadur Shastri. He says Lal Bahadur Shastri gave the slogan Jai Jawan Jai Kisan, and the former Prime Minister of India Atal Bihari Vajpayee added an extra phrase to this, which was Jai Vigyan. So it becomes now Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan and Jai Vigyan. So that is what a challenge before the agricultural scientists, that they genetic checkmate these new diseases, and biofortification should be taken on a much larger scale. The next news item is tribals against shifting of villages from protected areas. So these are tribals in Odisha. So the Odisha government is taking initiatives to shift tribals from core areas in the wildlife sanctuaries, tiger reserves in the state, so that the environment can be safeguarded, and the tribals are said to be given compensation commensurate with the rates presently available in the market, and they are being asked to shift away. But the tribals are not ready to shift because they are saying this is in complete violation of Forest Rights Act. Because tribals and traditional forest dwellers act, this Rights Act, gives them right to forest land. They have been given land pattas, also means rights to the land. So this is the provision under this act. So they are saying this is complete violation of the act, but the Odisha government is bringing in environment as a factor, and the tribal organization which is protesting against these initiatives is also making a point that if environment protection is a major concern, then why tourism is promoted in these regions? Then tourism should be put a cap on to. So that's what they're claiming, that land is being taken away from them and land is being provided for such commercial purposes. So we'll have to wait and watch what happens on these lines. So this you can see is Odisha, and presently the news is regarding the Simlipal Tiger Reserve in Odisha, where tribals residing in core and buffer zone. So core forest area is there, and beyond this is the buffer zone. So in both core and buffer zone, the tribals are being shifted. So here is you should know about all the wildlife sanctuaries and tiger reserves in every state, at least the major one. Simlipal lies here. Then this is the Gahirmatha Marine Sanctuary, where olive ridley turtles are also found. So along the coast, the entire coast of Odisha. So this is prominent. Even Chilika Lake and the sanctuary here. Then Satkosia Wildlife Sanctuary is prominent. So some prominent wildlife sanctuaries of every state you should be knowing about, because such questions are asked in prelims also to match. So just going through them again and again is important. Presently the news was here in Simlipal. Then the next news item is SBI HDFC banks par over M-wallet fee. So if a person has an account, a saving account in HDFC bank, and he wants to make a transfer of funds to an account in SBI bank, then presently it is not possible through the M-wallet, mobile wallet, because SBI has not reached an agreement with HDFC on the transfer fee which is required to be paid on this matter. So HDFC is willing to go ahead with this, but SBI is not. It is also raising security concerns that the application of HDFC, how effectively secured it is a concern which State Bank of India is raising. So digital transactions through mobile wallet will become difficult in this case. So such issues, if genuine, have to be addressed, because there is already a committee which has been set up, Ratan Vatal committee, by the government of India, so that digital transactions can be promoted. It has put forth its suggestions also on this matter. So such concerns also have to be taken into consideration. Then the next news item is Centre clears 26% strategic sale in BEML. So BEML is Bharat Earth Movers Limited, a public sector undertaking which is also manufactures defense equipments. It has a majority stake presently with the government. So this is having 54.03% government shareholding, and now the government is planning disinvestment in this, which will be 26% will be sold off. So this is a strategic disinvestment. So the term strategic comes because if you have more than 50% shareholding, then you are a strategic partner. You have a major say in the decisions of the company. So if you are selling off a stake such that your majority reduces, it goes down to 50%, then it is called strategic disinvestment, right? So this is the first major PSU undergoing strategic disinvestment. Over the last 12 years, only 3 strategic sales have been approved. So this will fetch 1,000 crores to the exchequer, to the government. So first privatization since 2003-04, when under the NDA government, then headed by Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, sale of Jessup and Company had taken place. So this is the first privatization, because less than 50% means the company is privatized now. So strategic disinvestment will result in privatization. So that's what disinvestment does take place. Even UPA government during its 2 terms had undertaken disinvestment, but it was not a strategic disinvestment. Means, say for example, a company, a PSU has 75% stake of the government. So if 5%, 10% sale takes place, so it goes down from 75 to 65. So that is not a strategic disinvestment. So this one is. So that's why it is highlighted. About BML2, it was established in 1964 and operates on 3 major business verticals, means 3 areas in which it operates. One is mining and construction, because it's an earth mover as the name suggests, rail and metro, and defense and aerospace. So these are the 3 areas in which the company functions. So it has been privatized to bring in more efficiency in its functioning. The next news item is China grabs 50% of India's smartphone market. So India's smartphone market before this, till last year, was dominated by Samsung, which had 30% of the share of the smartphone market in India. Before that, of course, it was Nokia. But now it has been overtaken by Chinese smartphone companies, and these mobile companies are Oppo, Lenovo, OnePlus and Xiaomi. So they have more than 50% of the smartphone market share in India now. The next news item is railways may get 6% increase in budget. So 2016-17 would be the first financial year since 1921 when the separate railway budget was first time introduced. So till before this financial year, we had 2 budgets. One was the general budget and the railway budget, which was announced every financial year. But now on, there will be one single combined general budget which would be announced. There will be no separate railway budget. So since that is the case, then railway budget earlier was given budgetary support by the government. It's called gross budgetary support, GBS, which was provided by the government. But in lieu of that, it had also had to pay a dividend to the government. So from now on, since the budget is merged, there will be no dividend payment required. So that is one benefit which is there. And the GBS allocation this year is expected to have a 6% rise. We'll come to know the final data later. So it was 48,000 crore. It was 45,000 crore last year, and this time it is expected to be 48,000 crores. So the demand which is made, gross budgetary support demand which is made by the railways to the finance ministry is much high. It demands around 1 lakh crore. So since last few years it has been demanding that much because it requires that much amount of money to upgrade, to have all its expenditure done and taken care of. But then that much is not the allocation done. So of course on those lines it's not there. But the dividend which it had to pay, because the dividend paid by the railways was around 9,731 crore. For 2016-17 too, it is this much. So this dividend has a deduction done on subsidies, because railways subsidizes, subsidies are provided because there are loss-making routes too, which the railways allows to function. So this subsidies is provided by the government. So that is 4,300 crores around in 2016-17. So net dividend payment is the 9,000 minus 4,000, that is around 5,430 crores for 2016-17. So from next year onwards, even this dividend payment would not be there. So that is one aspect which you should know. So railways budgeting till this was done through gross budgetary support, even market borrowings are allowed, plus also internal revenue generation which takes place. So this is how the railway supports itself. So now we'll have to wait and watch after the merger how will railways function and how will it take care of its budget. The next news item is the last one, double delight from Indian telescope data. So this is India's GMRT, Giant Meter Wave Radio Telescope, which is installed in Pune. So it has discovered two of the most powerful phenomena in the universe. One is a supermassive black hole which has been discovered, plus a collision of a giant galaxy cluster. So giant galaxy clusters are colliding around 2 billion light years away from the Earth, and in that process they are absorbing giant black hole matter which is ejected from this giant black hole is swept up by this merger. So this is a phenomena which has been observed through the Giant Meter Radio Telescope in India, in Pune, which is there in Pune on ground, and there is NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory which is in space, which is orbiting in the Earth. So that both of them have together been providing this data. There are other telescopes too. Together this data phenomena has for the first time been observed by the astronomers. So this is in use. Here it is the, what is the function of a radio telescope? So a radio telescope functions through radio waves. So radio waves help us see objects which can't be seen in visible light. So this gases from the galaxies can be clearly observed through these radio telescopes. They generally have a huge antenna. So this is the dish. It acts like a mirror and focuses radio waves on a receiver, and then the data can be. So this is the entire electromagnetic spectrum, the various waves, radio waves, microwaves, infrared waves. So this you can see as frequency increases, X-rays have the highest frequency. So then the GMRT, Giant Meter Radio Telescope, Meter Wave Radio Telescope is here in Pune. You can see how it's functioning. So it's by Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, there, through which it is functioning, National Center for Radio Astrophysics in Pune, where it has been built by. Then the Chandra X-ray Observatory, which is in space. So it's the world's most powerful X-ray telescope. So it is in space because the Earth's atmosphere absorbs a vast majority of X-rays. So they are not detectable by Earth-based telescopes. That is why this is a space-based telescope of NASA. So that is it. So these are the news items for 7th Jan. Thank you.